Welcome to Cowgirl Talk, where we empower you to live authentically through real food, real talk, and real life. Sisters brought together by our love of cows. We're your host, Emily, a dairy lover and personal trainer living in Florida.
And Becca, a corporate cowgirl holding down the family fort in Pennsylvania. Let's go, cowgirls!
Hello, and welcome back to Cowgirl Talk. In today's episode, it looks a little bit different. It's kind of a combination of ag chat, girl chat, but also I'm hosting solo without Becca as a co-host. She is doing all things bridal, all things travel, and she is just a very, very busy gal right now. But I'm still so excited to be able to have now a new co-host for the week, Erica Leniczek. And we are going to be having a really amazing conversation about all things health and more specifically mental health and mindset, as that is her area of expertise. And we've been Insta friends for a little bit of time now, right? But I'm really excited to have this conversation to dive further into the areas that you talk about, and especially mental health in terms of agriculture, as I think many of the people listening to this are really going to be able to benefit from it. And I'm just excited to chat. So hello, Erica. Thank you so much for being on Cowgirl Talk today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to have our conversation and to be your co-host for the week.
Yes. Yes, maybe this will be a thing with Becca's crazy wedding schedule. We'll just have some rotating co-hosts with amazing ladies who we're going to have really fun conversations with. And so we're still going to kind of keep the same flow of the episode. We'll be doing our highs and lows, weekly obsession, but so our audience just has a little bit of a better idea of who's going to be, hosting as well today. Would you just give a little bit of a quick introduction of yourself?
Quick, hey.
Okay, yeah. So when I say quick, it can be like a synopsis, the Cliff Notes,
Cliff Notes version. I live on a commercial Black Angus operation in Alberta, Canada.
Ooh.
And I am currently, yes, I'm Canadian. I'm everybody's like token Canadian, which is amazing. People are like, is there polar bears up there? No. Well, yes, but not where I am.
Oh my gosh.
But yes,
Scary.
I live in the north above the States, in Alberta, Canada. And I'm currently studying my Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology. And I am working towards becoming a registered psychologist at the end of it, or a mental health therapist. I'm not really sure what path I'm going to take, but I've got 22 certifications in health and wellness, ranging from personal training to sexual education to suicide intervention and prevention. So a lot of different things in there, but kind of holistic mental health, mindfulness, health stuff. So that's like the briefest synopsis I can give you.
Oh, I love all of that. Now I know I said brief, and now I want to ask a little bit more, and then we'll get into our highs and lows. But along with that, so you grew up within agriculture as well, and then that kind of led into you finding that passion for helping.
No.
No? Oh, okay.
I didn't grow up in ag, actually. I grew up in a really small town.
Okay.
That was very like ag centered,
Mhm.
kind of like a wheat field downtown kind of a place. My family, both sides, have a history in agriculture, but the farm went to different people in the lineages and over the years. And I grew up with a respect for farming for sure because of that. Like family functions were around seeding and spraying and harvest and different stuff like that. But I didn't actually grow up on a farm. I wanted to be in 4-H. So we don't have FFA. We don't have it FFA here, but we have 4-H. And I wanted to be in 4-H like literally my whole entire life. And I couldn't because we didn't have cows and stuff like that. But I was always a horse girl. So I rode English. And then I met a cowboy guy at a rodeo, and he decided to uproot me from the place where I grew up that is near a city. Like I was 40 minutes from the city, like a million plus size Calgary, where the Calgary Stampede is. Grew up going to that every year. I know people love it. Calgary is like my home. I love the mountains. I love Stampede, all that stuff. Grew up there. And he transplanted me to this little town on the Saskatchewan border that's like 45 minutes to a city of like 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So a lot
I'm
different.
2 hours from literally pretty much a mall. Like we're in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, this may be something that you know of, or it's another part of Canada, because I know Canada is so freaking big, but something that I've seen on TikTok kind of in the past year, and I know it's been around for quite a while, but it's people riding horses and then pulling skiers behind them and doing
Oh
tons of
yeah,
crazy tricks in town. Is
that's my
that?
friends.
Oh
Those
my
are my
gosh.
friends. So that's Skajordu, and they do
Yes, I
that
didn't want to
down.
say it and mess it
Yeah,
up. So okay.
yeah. So that's like very Nordic in tradition, but it's down like it's 6 hours from where I am now. But like my
Mm-hmm.
sister went, all my friends go, like half the people that you see on TikTok and like the fur coats with the belt buckles and the hats and
Yes.
all that stuff. Like I know most of those people. A couple of my really good friends actually like started doing that in their backyard for fun on a snow day. And then yeah, and so like so many people are obsessed with it, and I'm like it's just like what we do. And that's held in like Banff. There's one.
Mm-hmm.
So they shut down, everybody knows of Banff because of the Rocky Mountains,
Yep.
but they shut down like Main Street Banff, and they have all these people, and it's become like a big thing, a big event. And then they also have one now down in a little town called Millerville, where the
Mm.
show, if people are aware of it, Heartland is filmed. It's
Okay.
on the same racetrack as that. And so people go to those. And like my sister went to the Millerville one this year, and she wore my fur coat, and she was just like, it was so snowy, and like it was like you can see the pictures of the mill or the videos,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like blizzarding, but they're just having the best time. So yes, that's Skajoring.
Oh my gosh. That is, oh, it's so cool. I feel like just that stuff could be a whole episode topic of wanting to learn more about it. But so I don't get
Yeah.
totally off track with what we're going to be talking about. Again, I thought it would be fun for us to still kind of talk about our highs and lows of the week. And so I'll start with this. So my highs of the week, so not, skiing on horses or anything like that, but I was able to go to dairy cattle show last week. So we went to Clemson Spring Show. I got to show some Holsteins, and I got to show one of my jerseys. Her name is Hashtag. And I'm involved in dairy, but I don't get to be on dairy farms as much anymore. And so it was just really cool to be able to do that. And then in between the cow show, I also had the opportunity to get closer to Canada. I was in New York, and I got to learn more about the farm bill with Farm Bureau. So that was really awesome to get kind of back involved in closer to ag in a couple different ways last week.
Yeah. Very soul nourishing, it sounds like just homely for you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, it was. And as I was on that tour with Farm Bureau, I did just say to them, and I was just thinking, it just made me so excited to be involved in agriculture. And yeah, it just made me excited and happy. And with all the travel, though, as I'm so, so grateful for all of it and the opportunities, I mean, how cool is it that we get to do these things? The travel has kind of been chaotic.
Yeah.
So the house is a little bit of a mess. The office right now, as I'm recording in, this is probably one of the less chaotic rooms right now. And my fitness, nutrition is not taking a full back seat, but it's just looked a little bit different. So I've loved all of it, but I'm excited to be back in to a little bit more of a normal routine.
I get that. I traveled with Farm Credit Canada for like
Oh,
I don't even know, like I think it was like 6 weeks straight,
mm-hmm.
and it was a
Oh,
lot. It was a lot.
yeah. It's always something that's so, so cool. But during different seasons of life, it's like, okay, the travel part, I don't mind being a homebody and getting into a little bit more of my routine. Yeah. Well, then what are your highs and lows of the week?
Oh gosh. I
I
think
know. I was like, hey, well, do you want to be a part of this? And
yeah, I
so
do.
not a lot of pressure. I'm not trying to put a lot of pressure on you, but yeah, what are your highs and lows?
I would say that my high this week is that I made a change, and I randomly on Friday night decided to switch over to a new Instagram account.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to like, as I get into the registration process of becoming a psychologist or a therapist or like whatever route I can take here,
Mm-hmm.
I want to diversify a little bit. So my account was very egg
Yeah.
base before, which was awesome. But I was feeling like I wasn't hitting like the psychology niche market very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a new space for myself. Just like I just wanted a fresh start so bad. And I had been fighting that for like a year and a half. And finally on Friday, I pulled the plug and I did it. And I just like feel like I can show up myself in that
Yep.
space, which is such an awesome feeling. Like I actually get excited to post on Instagram again. I lost like 4,000 followers worth of people, which is like a small
Whoa.
community because, well, just because, you start fresh and not everybody comes over.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
my engagement though is so much better. And I'm actually
Yeah.
having like good, deep conversations with people. And my people have said, like, I actually see your content now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just like, I'm having so much more fun and I feel like I can be my authentic self, which is really nice. Like, that's
Yeah.
really nice.
No, that is so awesome because the thing with social media is you try so hard to be authentic to yourself. And I've had Dare Girl Fitness for over 6 years now, but it's so hard to not let the voices of other people, other ideas, what's trending, what's not, impact what you're doing. So I'm sure starting fresh has really just allowed you to say, F it, I'm gonna stick to what I really want to talk about with this page.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was getting a lot of feedback from, I guess this is can be my low, is I was getting a lot of
Mm-hmm.
feedback from people in ag saying like I wasn't aggy enough to
Ew,
be in
I
ag.
hate those people who, if
Yeah,
they're listening, you suck.
they do. Cuz like they were like, "Well, like how are you in ag if you're a therapist?" And I'm like, there's a lot of people that have off-farm jobs. Like
Yeah.
I get to still do my passions of both, but I have people say like I don't understand the cattle markets good enough, which I do. Like I'm actually pretty good with the markets and like say that I'm just the wife and like those kind of things and I'm like
I want to fight them. I'm like ready to
ugh,
fight right now.
yeah. So that's my low, honestly, is those conversations and being treated like that. But it got
Mm-hmm.
followed by me just being like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. I'm
Mm-mm.
starting this new page. And those people aren't part of it and they don't have to be part of it. And if they want to be, then they have to actually take that extra step to come over and onto that side of things. And I'm loving that. So,
Yeah, it is just insane to me how people try to gatekeep agriculture because, yes, not like when people think of agriculture, it's the people that are in with the animals, in with the crops, the land, different things like that. But that's not the only type of agriculture. And there's so many supporting roles that it is just ridiculous to me when people say something like that. Like, why would you not want someone to get involved and to be able to bring in a new perspective and also help on the mental health side of things? Because clearly those people do need some help for being such jerks. Yeah, they have
I
problems.
know. I always look at them and I'm like, you need people like me. You're the people who
Mm-hmm.
need the people. Yeah, it is really frustrating. And my point of view on it is always that maybe we wouldn't have so many people against agriculture if we were more inviting to the people who
Mm-hmm.
aren't in agriculture to come and join and be part of the conversation.
Yes, 1000%. And actually, on our last episode of Cowgirl Talk, Becca and I talked about Beyonce's new country album, and we're
Yeah.
both excited for it. I mean, I like Beyonce's music. For her as a person, obviously don't know her that well, but it's just a fact it's inviting more people to get involved in Western culture, get involved in the countryside of things that maybe didn't feel welcomed before. And I
Mhm.
just, like you said, I think it's so ridiculous that people try to gatekeep agriculture when it's already such a small and shrinking industry. So we need more people like us. I'm not saying we're, stampeding the change, but people who talk about ag and can reach a different audience and bring in a different perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And like in full transparency, I was picked on because I wasn't on a farm and in
Ew.
4-H as a kid. Like,
Hmm.
those just as a kid in high school and stuff like that, like because I wanted to be so bad. But now I'm like, why I would never treat somebody like that. Like if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm interested in branding." Like I'm like, "Come on out for branding. We always need
Heck yeah.
help. Like come hang out with us." And so I'm my friend from Nova Scotia who's got a winery. She's might come to oh no, it's doing the thumbs up. She
She
might
gave a thumbs up, and if you're watching this video, you can see it gave a Why isn't mine doing that? Anyway.
I don't know. Mine does that sometimes. It's so weird. But anyways, she might come for branding and I'm like, totally. Like I invite friends all the time for different occasions and things and processing or whatever we're doing. Because it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, why not? Why not get other people excited into any area if they want to learn, if they have the questions, and then you
Mm.
have the opportunity to help them see that. Yeah, it's people more people need to have your sort of mindset of getting more people involved. And you growing up, kind of being that outsider looking in, I'm sure helped you now have more of a welcoming, open, and just more kind mindset.
Hmm. Yeah. And really having more people in ag isn't a threat to anyone.
No, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. But that kind of leads perfectly then into some of the questions that I wanted to chat with you about. And when we're chatting with anyone, right, everyone always kind of loves to know the journey of how we got here or where the seed got planted, where the inspiration started. So I would love to hear what really inspired you to get involved in a career that focuses on both physical and mental health, right? As you said, you have a ton of certifications, which is amazing and fantastic. So, yeah, what helped you get inspired to do that, but then also focus a little bit more on the mental health side of things with it?
Yeah. So on the physical health side of things, I was an athlete. I played
Yes.
volleyball. I played club volleyball,
Same.
baseball, club baseball, like
Same. Oh
different.
my gosh. Look at us.
So, like many washed up athletes, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
You start going to the gym and become a personal trainer. And so like athleticism and working out and stuff like that has always just been a home space for me, a place of reprieve, a place of growth. It's been safe. So I kept on with that. That's very short for the physical side of things
Yeah.
as to why I got into that. Mental health and my passion for it actually started when I was in about grade 10.
Mm.
So I was in grade yeah, I was in grade 10 and our school has something called distance learning. And
Hmm.
so we could learn because we were rural, we didn't have the actual classes. And so I didn't want to take shop class. So my parents signed off on me taking psychology courses through distance learning. And I got to start learning about like Phineas Gage. He's a guy who got a railroad spike through his brain, through
Oh
his
my
eye, his
gosh.
frontal lobe, and he lived, but he had like this was like in the 1800s. But they noticed very obvious changes in personality because of it going through his prefrontal cortex and disrupting his executive functioning, which is like your time management skills, your
Hmm.
personality, anger, emotional regulation, stuff like that. Um, and I just was like fascinated by that. And then in grade 11, we went to a play called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Um, and it's about schizophrenia, like
Oh
people with
wow.
schizophrenia. And I was like fascinated by that too. So I just kind of like followed that fascination through university. And I ended up
Hmm.
getting a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience, Psychology, and Kinesiology. So that lumps all of those things together. Um, and then now I just really liked mental health. And I was sitting at a conference one day and I was listening to people talk about the mental health statistics in agriculture and the mortality rates and stuff like
Oh my
that. And
gosh.
obviously, it's specific, like what I learned is very specific to Canada.
Hmm.
Um, but it was horrifying for me. And at that point, also, I was going through, or right at the beginning of a depressive spiral for myself. And so I was like, I want to do something about this. I want to figure out how. I ended up actually taking a leave of absence from work
Hmm.
and going on mental health leave because of my work situation at that time. And through that, I had applied for my master's of counseling and I got in and I quit my job and I was like, screw this. I hate this. It was a mental health job. It was just
Yeah.
toxic as all heck.
Um,
Um,
man.
the workplace. Yeah, it was a really not cool. Um, and here I am.
Here
This
we
is what
are.
that brings me today.
That is such a cool story because I feel like, when we all grow up, we all maybe have an idea of what we want to be. And I know it can be ever changing. I wanted to be a vet at one point, an artist, I don't know. There's probably a few other things in there, but I love that yours started back in high school and kind of through interesting ways of getting introduced to some pretty, I would say, crazy stories with like a spike going through someone's eye and even just to play. And it just sparked an interest. And then, of course, no one wants to be in a state where they don't feel their best and they're in a really dark place. But with you having that interest and then experiencing it yourself, it seems like you just kind of continue to find those catalysts to want to help other people, but then also help yourself in the process.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely I put it so eloquently to a comment on Instagram this morning. I said like through my own healing journey, I decided to educate myself to be able to heal other people too.
Oh, man.
Um
That's awesome.
yeah, and that's just been, and like the egg piece is just the fact that I've always wanted to be involved in egg. I'm finally involved in egg and I see the stressors every day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm on a farm, we're heading into calving season. We're 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away from calving, and we're in a blizzard right now here.
Oh my
So I'm
gosh.
like, I see it. Like we're in a blizzard and we're facing drought. I get it all the time. I'm living that life now too. So it's really important to me to advocate in all those different areas for people.
Yeah. And last week on my visit with different producers in New York, we were just talking about it, right? Like with crop insurance or any sort of insurance, that farming is and ranching is one of the few professions that you can do everything almost 100% right and still have zero idea of what that outcome is going to be. And it just can take such a huge mental toll. And I think it's something that people have just worn the burden for so long. And it's not something that many people talk about because there's still such a stigma around mental health and that side of things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we're seeing like so when you educate about things, you kind of start in this state of like stigma, right? People are like, nah, this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist. And we're kind of, some people are still stuck there very much because they're rub dirt on it kind of
Mm-hmm.
people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, get up, keep going. But now we're also seeing like sometimes when you educate, you see an abundance of, or an influx too, of common terms being used incorrectly.
Mm.
So the difference between like complex trauma, and like that was just a bad experience, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
trauma, or it might be little t, what we call in the field like big T trauma versus little T trauma, stuff like that. And you'll see like on TikTok, like I was traumatized today, and it's like, well, like
Yeah.
bro, like not like you had an experience, something happened, it impacted you, but it might not have been like super traumatic. Or like the influx of people who want to talk about mental health that have no background or credentials, and are talking about it from like their personal experience, which is good. That's really good, but at the same time they don't realize how dangerous it is to give advice when you don't know someone's whole story, or right, like you don't actually
Mm-hmm.
know like what that intervention could be doing to somebody if used incorrectly. So
Yeah.
that's just part of the learning and growing experience though.
Yeah, it's kind of the double-edged sword of social media of more people sharing their story to know, okay, I'm not alone in this, but also it puts so much information out there. And sometimes we do need to stay in our own lanes. And even for what I do, right? I run an online health and fitness and nutrition company, and those are kind of our main areas. And while, yes, we'll work on mindset in terms of habits and such and moving past, roadblocks, when there is something more serious, that's where we know, hey, this is out of our lane. And for you to get the best success, the best help possible, you need to go work with, or you should go work with another professional on that point. And
Mhm.
that's where I would love to hear from you as well of, and this is a very kind of broad question, but why does prioritizing our mental health matter? Or why is it something that more people need to have awareness around? I would say, especially in the agricultural industry as well. Like, I know it matters everywhere, but as you said earlier, the mindset in ag is very much rub some dirt on it, don't talk about it, just work hard and grind out, doesn't matter what's happening, right? And obviously that takes a toll on people.
Yeah, I think the really short answer of that is because we simply need to prevent suicides in
Yeah.
agriculture. Um, there are a lot of people who die by suicide in agriculture, and it's really, really sad. Long answer, though, is that mental health creeps into every single part of your life. When you're decision making, you're using your brain to do that. And, if you're making $1 million decisions on a farm, you have to be hopefully in a good mindset, not acting out of emotion, not mad at somebody, slept with good sleep and good nutrition so that your brain's running properly to actually give yourself the glucose to get your brain going, so that you can have enough cognitive power to make good decisions, like stuff like that. Simply down to like reaction time. We're like I said, we're about to calve. We have a couple cows that I know we're really ranch style operation. You don't go pet our cows. And I need to be cognitively aware of if she's going to come eat me. We have one in particular, number 15.
Oh, you
Uh,
have her number. You're like, oh, I know you, and I don't want you
oh
here
yeah.
anymore.
Oh yeah. 15, 630, 603. I know them. I know my girlies, but they're going to defend their babies. And if I'm going to tag
Mm-hmm.
and give vaccines and stuff like that, I need to know that I'm going to be safe and I'm going to be fast and I'm going to be with it.
Yeah.
So things like that. I was talking to somebody yesterday about the mental load of planting and harvest seasons, where, yeah, there's a lot of autopilot features with different machinery and equipment now. However, you still have to be like aware of a lot of different things. Like I think of, we don't do a whole lot of crop production around here,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're baling, it can be really monotonous, but at the same time, you have to pay attention to, is your bale even? What is the thing on the side saying? Is it beeping at you? Are you done? Are you making a big bale, a small bale? How many pounds? The moisture content, all that different stuff. And you have to be aware of that. And all of those pieces are cognitive load.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's mental health. And I don't think
Mm-hmm.
people really realize that cognitive load impacts mental health, and mental health impacts how your guts are feeling, how your body's feeling, all of that stuff, weight gain, all that. So it is really important. It's really quite important that we look at people as holistic beings too, especially approaching from the mental health side of things.
And I think it is so important to talk about the mindset side of things, because when people think of health so often, it comes down to exercise, nutrition, habits like sleep, and different things like that. But mindset and mental health is the foundation of it. And if we're not managing those things, I don't want to say nothing else matters, but that's always going to kind of be the thing that potentially helps propel you forward or almost hold you back with how you're feeling. And like you said, even with how you're feeling physically as well.
Yeah. I'll tell a little bit of a personal story about this too,
Yeah.
because I talked about how I went on my mental health leave and I was burnt out as all heck from work. And I had like one of those like 15-step morning routines. I was getting up at like 4:30. I was going to the gym. I was counting my macros. I was doing
Mm.
breath work and journaling and pulling cards and gratitude and all the stuff before I went to work, because I needed to be okay to go to work. And I knew that like my mental health was in the tank. And I was teaching kids about mental health in this job. And I was doing pretty much everything in my power to promote mental health for myself. But at the end of the day, if you don't pinpoint or deal with like the source of whatever it is that's going on, which for me was my job, then nothing was working. Like I was gaining weight, counting macros, working out, like what? I was not sleeping well. Like I had pretty much, and so now I say you can have as many steps in your self-care routine as you want. But if you don't change the thing that's actually eating at your soul, or address that stuff that's actually eating at your soul, you're still not doing well for yourself. Like you're still not going to be okay.
Yeah. You almost have to, and you don't want to, but sometimes you almost have to kind of, it seems, get to a breaking point or that really dark point to realize that, okay, this is not okay. I'm obviously doing so many things right, but I keep ignoring this one area because maybe it feels really ugly, maybe it feels really uncomfortable. And sometimes you just have to be willing to get really vulnerable and honest with yourself, even if it doesn't make you feel good. And it seems like you were allowing yourself to do that, and also getting out of environments that don't support you.
Yeah, and I think in ag, people are really scared of change. And when you
Mm-hmm.
actually start to self-assess and you actually start to look at like what is going on, what is the root cause of this, what can I do to change, people are really resistant to that. So it's way easier to stay in the chaos that we know and be around the devil we know than it is to learn about and possibly expose ourselves to new chaos, new devil. We don't like that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we see it in so many areas, right? But yeah, ag is something that already has so many variables that I'm sure, and it's not just in ag, but for any time that we maybe can stay comfortable, even if it means maybe we don't feel our best, it's like, okay, this is just what I'm used to. And so I guess then for anyone who maybe feels that they are not feeling their best or they want to start learning more about mental health or maybe they're resistant to it, how do you start to try to bring that up? How do you introduce that into a convo? Or how do you talk to someone about that without putting them on guard, if that makes sense?
Yeah, and that does make sense. That's something that's really actually it's really challenging. A lot of people need help with that.
Yeah.
Um my biggest thing that I always say is be the example. Like if if you're creating change and you're doing things and you're noticing that things are really positive for you, be the example. Like invite people to go with you. You know, and in that have hard conversations, right? Do the scary thing with the hard conversations. Say, you know what? Like I am concerned about you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Right? Simple things like that. Cuz and you know, most people when you ask them how you're doing and you mean it sincerely and it's not just like a flash by like, "Hey, how's it going? Good, you?"
Yep.
Like when it's an actual like, "How are you? I want to check in." Most people don't get offended by that. Most
Yeah.
people are surprised that somebody actually cares about them that much.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm getting kind of goosebumps talking about all of this, but it is so valuable what you said because it's better to have the hard, uncomfy conversations rather than lose that person because you weren't willing to dive deep with them and just allow yourself to get uncomfortable too in those conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is uncomfortable. Like it really, really is. Um, but it's imperative at the end of the day and to stay connected, right?
Yep.
Um, there's friendships are always two-way streets.
Mhm.
And I've lost a lot of friendships because I haven't been willing to be the first person to make the call, or I am the first person to make the call, and I'm the first person to make the call over and over and over again. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm like, at what point, when I'm struggling, is it also that person's job to reciprocate it? It
Yep.
has to go both ways.
Yeah, completely. And with that, then, so for someone who may be listening, or maybe they know someone who could benefit from a conversation like this, I feel like it's hard to put it in like, oh, 2 to 3 tips, or just really condense it into that. But for someone listening who recognizes that they need to or want to get into a better headspace. They want to create a healthier mindset for themselves. And obviously, like outside of professional help if they need that. But what would you say are 2 to 3 tips or just starting points to start to recognize how you're feeling and addressing that in a more positive way, whether that's mental practices or kind of shifting your environment, your physical surroundings?
So, the first thing of all of that is awareness. So, you have to become aware of what am I feeling today?
Yeah.
Work on acknowledging it. And the best way to do that is work on literally just saying, okay, in this moment, I feel blank. Realize what thoughts are coming into your head, right? Your thoughts aren't facts, but they're really good indicators of the current emotion you're having. So if you're feeling anxious and your thoughts are all about, I can't do this, or drought, or I'm the worst, or whatever that might look like, then start to acknowledge those thoughts and say, okay, what are these thoughts telling me? These thoughts are telling me that I'm currently anxious. And if I'm currently anxious, then the next step that you can take is doing opposite action, is something I like to teach. Like when we're talking really broadly about mental health,
Hmm.
not a tool. Obviously, any tools I say aren't necessarily going to work for everybody,
Yeah.
but acknowledgement's definitely key. You have to be able to say what's happening in order to fix it. Kind of like if you take your car into a mechanic, you have to be able
Yeah.
to say, hey, it's making a noise at the very least.
Yep.
So say like, hey, I'm not feeling my best is a really good place to start, and acknowledge when that's even happening, because that's hard for some people. Then acknowledge what emotion it is. And then every single emotion has an action associated directly with it. So sadness, people typically want to be still, hibernate, stay in bed. Anger, people typically want to like move forward and have like, think about it, right? You want to push somebody away. You want to do something with a forward momentum. So stuff like that. So if you're feeling those two in particular, just as examples, and you want to do the exact opposite of those things as one tool, like I said. So you can, if you're sad and you want to stay in bed and you don't want to do anything, force yourself to get up out of bed. And yes, I'm not naive to how challenging that is. I am absolutely not. But what it does is your brain gets stuck in like a rumination cycle, and you get stuck there, and you could stay there for God knows how long, and it's not going to change unless you be the person to make the change. No one's going to change it for you. You might, if you're really lucky, have a good friend or family member that's like, no, you're not doing this, but not everybody does. And so you have to get yourself up and out of bed. If you're angry and you want to move forward, retreat and go into stillness. So learn those actions that you do specifically. There's general examples that you do specifically when you notice your emotions being a little dysregulated, and then do the opposite of that. And that's like a really, really good place to start with emotional awareness and emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, because all of those things make you less vulnerable to fluctuating emotion sequences.
I love that, because I know it can sound so simple, but it seems often that it is just the awareness around your actions and being able to just shift something slightly that can bring you to this place of like, oh, I do this a lot. Now I can start to do something different, hopefully create that new kind of habit and that new thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, and one really good example is people who just sit on their phones and scroll and scroll
Oh
and
my
scroll.
gosh, me,
Me
me.
too. Me too. We
Oops.
scroll, and then you get like influenced to buy something, and then you buy something, and then you have buyer's remorse, and then you feel crappy. So then you scroll on your phone, and then it's just like the cycle, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are aware of that cycle. And if you can, or you compare yourself to some other person that goes to the gym and your physique
Mm-hmm.
versus them, right? That's something we all like. I get stuck in that too. And instead of sitting there scrolling on my phone, maybe I actually get my butt up and go to the gym. Or
Yeah.
instead of buying something and feel buyer's remorse, maybe I put that amount of money into my savings account. Like, you're
Yeah.
still doing the action. You're still doing something related to what you were doing in the first place. You're just slightly rerouting, right? You're still on the same path.
Yeah.
You're just doing it differently. So it's
I
not
like
so
that.
challenging that way if it's sort of connected to what you were going to do in the first place.
Yeah, you're like lowering the barrier to entry on it, of making it
Yeah.
feel, maybe still harder, but a little less uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, that was a really eloquent way of putting it. Lowering the barrier to entry. That's great. Love
I
it.
only know that because with like habits, right? You want to try to
Yeah.
make things as easy as possible to achieve for yourself. But with you then, kind of mentioning social media, I feel like it just brings up it could be quick, it could be long point though, of mental health and social media. And we don't have to dive super deep into it, but with you, of course, being on social media yourself and promoting your brand on social media, how do you kind of find the balance, or even for people that you work with, of okay, being on social media and online is a lot of jobs now, right? Or it's a part of a lot of what we run for businesses. So how do you kind of find that balance or take that step away before spiraling into the pit of doom as
The
I
pit of
as I
doom.
feel sometimes?
Um, Full transparency, I'm not perfect. No
Yeah.
therapist you're ever going to go to is. So this is something that I'm actually like consciously currently working on, because
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what was happening with my old page, is like it was just becoming this doom spiral, like psychological thing for me.
Yeah.
And so what I am currently doing is I set timers for myself. So I like to post in the morning. It's the time that works best for me. Um, and so I set a timer for how long I can interact with people in my niche. So not everybody's going to be obviously like this specific, but I set a timer for how long I can interact with people in my niche. And then I set a timer for how long I can make my posts for. So say like half an hour, I try to batch reels in half an hour, or, post the reel that I do today. Cause my reels take actual, like, I'm not just like throwing fluff out there, especially on this
Yeah.
new account. It takes research. I'm looking through notes. I'm looking through textbooks, like how much time I spent on doing that. And then I try to not be on it for a couple hours or the bulk of my day. So I get my interaction in for, the social aspect of social media that Instagram wants you to have, or
Yep.
TikTok wants you to have. But I get that in, I get my posts in, I get my research in that timer. Now, the other thing that I think that people are seeing when we're having, so many people are talking about cortisol problems, cortisol weight, cortisol regulation, all that kind of stuff, because a lot of us are stuck in fight or flight, because when you're flicking through social media, your brain is constantly adjusting. So your brain's like, okay, like new stimulus, new stimulus, new stimulus, right? Like it's so much. And so we're stuck in that fight or flight. So I am really working hard and I think I'm actually going to pull the plug and do this and get an alarm clock and keep my phone in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that for a long time. I haven't done it yet, but I think now I'm like, I can do this. So I read before bed for an hour to 2 hours. I don't go on my phone. And then I think what I am actually going to start doing, like I said, is alarm clock in the room. People did it for a long time, and have a charging station like in my kitchen or something like that for my phone.
I love that. And that's something that I've tried to get better at, right? Because I love reading and I've started implementing that at night. And I did that last night. And then I started to scroll afterwards, but we're getting we're getting better. But I've also right. I've started to actually the past couple years, it was more so I hit the snooze button less, but keeping my phone away from the bed. So I have to get out of bed in the morning. And so it's away from me at night. So I'm not going to be tempted to reach for it as well.
Yeah. And I think something that you'll resonate with too is I always found like at the gym, I would scroll in between sets.
Yes. And it ruins your workout basically.
Oh, like your like your rest periods, like everything.
Oh, I've been sitting here
matter.
5 minutes.
Yeah. And when you're actually seriously working out, like something I figured out is my rest periods actually matter. Like they actually do. Like we know this. And so what I started doing with that is I actually put my phone on do not disturb, and I time my rest periods, and I don't look at it during my workout. And I'm just like, this is me time. This is supposed to be my break time, my like mental, physical health time. And I have found that my 3-hour workouts are maybe an hour and a half now.
Yep.
Because people are like, oh, you don't need to spend 3 hours in the gym. And I'm like, I concur, but it takes me that long to do like 5 exercises because I'm just not committing. Like, really.
Messing around.
Yeah. And so I stopped doing, like, I put it on do not disturb, and it is like a breath of fresh air. It is so nice.
Yeah.
So nice. Like 10 out of 10 recommend, which is hard if you're like filming content and stuff, but you can still turn off your notifications.
Yeah.
Like you totally can.
I've noticed a big difference on that as well. Just being more focused and just staying in a good headspace, right? Because there can be cute, funny things on social, but then you come across, I don't know, someone you're comparing yourself to, or a video that, I mean, TikTok, right? You can scroll past and laugh, and the next video makes you cry. So yeah, just staying out of that headspace and staying focused on you. But I feel like that leads really well into one of the questions that I wanted to ask you as well, of for women, because that is, I would say, majority of kind of who we're speaking to here, for women that are starting a brand or a business or going after big goals, I would love to know one piece of advice. And again, I know it's like always hard to narrow things down a little bit, but a piece of advice or just some words of wisdom that you would give to ladies who are potentially afraid of taking the leap, or even like you said, right, with growing up, feeling like an outsider looking in? What helped you get to this point of doing the things and just going after it?
Um, I think for me, there's two things that I really try to focus on. And some of it has taken a lot of trial and error and a lot of heartache to get to, but that's staying true to myself is the first one. And to do that, the second one would then be quiet the noise of other people as much as you can. So like I really had to learn about like what I wanted to post, right? I talked about this new page that I wanted to create on Instagram, which is it's so much more than just a page. It's me saying bye to people who are bullying me. It's saying bye to naysayers. It's being my authentic self and showing up in a way that I want to in my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
And building a brand and being like starting a new journey, like I understand it's not solely social media, but I think in life, the more that you can just be holistically, unapologetically yourself, the better, because then you don't have, there's nothing else that you have to do or say or try to keep up with. It's just a lot less stressful. And then if it is online, your audience and your viewers are like, this is you. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have no surprises. Like there is a whole other side of social media. And I know people like this who are social media is one person that they are. And then out in the world, they're just totally different. And
Yep.
it's like, that must be exhausting,
Exactly.
right? To have that double life. So if you're just unapologetically yourself, there's no catfishing, there's no surprises, nothing, but also it feels better for you. So it creates that community. Regardless, like I said, regardless if you're on social media, I had somebody approach me about joining the Egg Society in my little town. And if I go into my first Egg Society meeting as unapologetically myself, I'm not sure if I'm going to join yet, but if I do, it's just going to start that whole relationship with those people so much better.
Yep.
And it will just continue authentically. And in that, to quieting those voices. Like when I started, I had mentors and people and everyone saying, you have to address substance abuse, you have to address racism, you have to address all these different pieces of mental health. And I was like, I'm not qualified to, first of all, like those two
Yep.
especially, like you have to do it so delicately. But I also didn't want to. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like that's where like I really like trauma and I really like suicide intervention and prevention and I like holistic healing and mindfulness. Like that's who I am. I don't like addictions and stuff like that. It's not to say that I don't advocate for those individuals and I won't work for those individuals, but I had to quiet those people down to stick so I could stay true to myself and what my passions really were.
Mm-hmm. Boom, mic drop. I absolutely love that though, because I think it's what we all hear so often, but to get to hear it and then see women walk the walk is always just so inspiring, because I think many women get nervous to do that. Maybe they're afraid to just fully be authentic because it's going to scare people away. Maybe we don't grow following or grow a business as fast enough. But like you said, it's starting with such an authentic and powerful foundation to begin with, and you're going to attract the right people that you want to be working with or that you want to be impacting. And then the wrong people, they're just not going to be there, or if they are, that doesn't matter, because that's not who you are trying to interact with or make a difference with. So I absolutely love all of that.
Well, I'm living that social experiment currently with my page.
Yes.
So, and I will say, like, I absolutely love my little community of like 340 people. Also, like, I did it on Friday. It's Wednesday. I already have 300 and something people. Like that to me, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, we
Yes.
want to grow it bigger, but that's amazing. I love them so much more than those 4,000 that I had on my other page. Again,
Mm-hmm.
like a small number, but it was just like it wasn't working. And I'm attracting by staying true to myself and following my niche and doing those things. I'm attracting people who I'm actually having in-depth good conversations with about mental health. And that's what
Yeah.
I want. So it doesn't matter how big your following is. I know people who have stores that make multi-millions of dollars and they have no Instagram account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have to be tied to social media if you don't want to be, to start your journey too, which is I think something that people need to focus on is how do you want to create your community? Because if you create your community online, then that's good. That's fine. That's wonderful. You can do that. But if you want to create it in a different way, then create it in your little town or however else you want to do it.
Yeah, like my husband, he does not want to be on social media. That's why you never even really see him on my page. But he's a dairy cattle nutritionist, and you know, he really enjoys it. They do well with that, and yeah, he doesn't have to be on social media with it. But as you said, it's just really nurturing your community in whatever way that looks like, and really just serving the people that you are trying to impact in the best way possible.
Yeah, and yourself, because if you're nurturing yourself, then you can nurture your community.
Heck yes. Yeah. You got to be one of your top priorities. And so people can continue learning more about all of this. And as we've been talking about your Instagram pages and social media, where can people find you?
Okay. So I am, Instagram is like where I lay comfortable. So Erica.psychology on Instagram is my new page. And I am trying to understand TikTok. Like I'm not that old, but TikTok is just something that I'm like, I don't get you. I don't understand. And like in the States, are you getting banned? Are you not? Like it's weird. I
We
don't
have
know
no
what's
idea.
Like
You're
I don't
trying.
get TikTok, but if you want content sometimes, I'm Erica.psychology on TikTok too. I just don't know how to really work it. So Instagram is where you can find it.
It's the Wild West over there. I kind of blew up on TikTok like a year ago, but then even still, it's just so random of what does well, what doesn't well. I think that's kind of also the fun part about it. You can go into TikTok with little expectation and just do whatever you want over there because everyone's just winging it pretty much.
Yeah. And like, so my Instagram page is very much going to be psych focused, not really farmy, ranchy that much anymore. But my TikTok, I maybe will still include farm stuff. I'm not sure. I don't really, I posted one post on TikTok and I'm like, okay, we can, like I'm amalgamating my page on TikTok. So I'm not making a new one. Because I don't know how, but I'm not making a new one.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm not making a new one. And so there's like quite a bit of farm content. Like I had some real or whatever the posts what are they called there?
I guess just TikToks, right?
TikToks. I had one that kind of blew up and I was like, okay. And it was about nothing. Like it was about nothing. Now I'm like, I don't know. Do I just start over? I don't know what to do over there. I might just start over because then I can just be fresh, like on everything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, go with the gut feeling, right? That's always what leads us in the direction of where we need to go.
Yeah, this went into a totally different conversation. But Erica.psychology on the platforms.
On both. Yeah. So I'll be sure to follow just so I can see kind of the direction that it takes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But, oh my gosh, such a good conversation to just hear how your journey has looked and how you've really turned that into helping so many other people and how throughout all of that, you really learned to stay so true to yourself. But to wrap up our episodes, we always like to do either a weekly hot take or a weekly obsession. So we're going to do weekly obsessions this week. And would you like to go first on a weekly obsession? Would you like me to go first? Since you're our guest, you tell me.
I can go first.
Woo!
I know mine because I am actually obsessed with this. Not just this cup. I know you're a hydro jug girly, but
I am.
I love this cup because it doesn't spill. Like it's the best. But it still has a straw, which I love. But inside of it also, I have fuzzy peach or sour fuzzy peach BCAs.
Oh.
I'm like, I just can't, like I probably, if you can overdo BCAs, probably overdo it. Because I'm just like, I need to find it in a non-BCA version if that's the case, because it's always in my cup. Like I just cannot get enough of that. It's amazing.
That sounds delicious. And yeah, for anyone who potentially isn't watching the video, she has a Hydro Jug Traveler, which they're kind of like I would say Stanley Cups, but better because, yeah, they have a
Totally.
straw. They're just as big and they don't spill. Like you could probably throw it against the wall. I haven't tested that theory yet and it won't spill.
But I trust it in my Louis Vuitton bag.
Yes, that's
I just put this,
important.
I just put this in there with BCAs that could stain it, and I'm just like, this is the best. The best. I'm obsessed with it.
This
For
is an
sure.
advertisement for HydroJug. If you want to know how durable it is, she risked putting it in one of her like luxury bags.
I did.
Oh, I love that. Well, my weekly obsession is I kind of have two, and they don't really relate to each other. But one of them was kind of food related in terms of I'm just obsessed with all things carrot cake right now. It's we're at Easter here, we got spring, and this week I had carrot cake bread pudding, and it was freaking delicious. Yes, it was amazing. I had it at a diner that I get breakfast with my grandparents, and I always get the bread pudding. They always have a seasonal one. And there was a carrot cake one. It was fantastic. And I'm going to be trying a carrot cake overnight oats recipe tonight. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll be obsessed with it because I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited to still just try to implement the carrot cake in different ways.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds yummy. You guys always have such cooler stuff down there that you can like make fun recipes with compared to up here. Like,
Really?
oh yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
man. Well, you guys got the horse skiers though, so you give and take, I guess, a little bit, right?
I'll take our horse skiers. I will. I'll do that. I'll take that for sure.
I love it. And then my other obsession, again, different, but last week when we were in New York, freezing. I mean, probably not that cold for a lot of people, but it was 30s, and ideally would have loved it to be a little bit warmer. But then also being at the cow show, I was just kind of crusty, lips, hands, the nose area, just a little dry. And so I was using bag balm a lot, like in the little green container, and
Yeah.
it was clutch. And I think I even used it to, what do people call it? Like when you slug your face
Oh
and you just like layer it. I did that 1 or 2 nights, and it did help just control the flakiness. And so it was awesome. It was wonderful.
Oh, I feel you. Actually, can I add one? Because I just got my first facial, an
Ooh.
Oxygeneo facial, and I was the same as you. I was like flaking. I literally looked like a molting snake. I got this facial, and I was like, my skin is like glowing now.
Yes. If anyone, you have to look at the video to see she's a nice glowy skin right now.
So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a thing for me now. I think I'm gonna be a facial girl, but
Yes, they are. It's an investment in yourself.
for sure, it really is, and it's relaxing. So it's like self-care, all the things.
Mental health,
Mhm.
all the things.
Totally.
I love those. Well, okay, we got a nice variety of weekly obsessions, and that's really just such a fun way to wrap up this conversation. And I always got to plug it in with our episodes of, you can find us at Cowgirl Talk on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We always encourage y'all to interact with us. Let us know any suggestions that you have. And if you are listening and enjoying the shows, please, I think it's following, subscribing, reviewing, all the things that you want to do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And just, yeah, as always, we hope you were able to really take some solid tips away from this episode. And thank you so, so much, Erica, for being on Cowgirl Talk with me.
Thanks so much for having me. It was amazing. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yay! And as always, this is usually Becca's part, but I'll take it on. Have a great day, Cowgirls. Bye.
Have a great day.